So, Jennae, welcome to the podcast. Wait, first of all, have I said your name right? Jennae? Is that right?
Yes, you said it right.
Cool,
Yep.
perfect. Okay, you got the first bit right. Okay, fantastic. Welcome to the
Thank you
podcast.
for
Fantastic
having
to have you
me.
here. Yeah,
Yeah,
why don't you
thank you so
quickly
much.
introduce who you are and what people would know you for?
Yeah, so my name's Jennae Cecelia. I have been writing poetry and publishing books for the last 9 years. I've self-published 13 poetry books, and then now I have a 14th book coming out with a traditional publisher in August with Andrews McMeel. So they're like a partner company with Simon and Schuster. They've done the book Milk and Honey. So I was really excited to get to be publishing with them.
Yeah, nice. And probably you're being a little bit humble at the moment because actually people have definitely seen your work, even if it's a reiteration of what your work is.
Mm-hmm.
Which is the coffee series, having a coffee with your younger self, which absolutely, like, for a week or two there, just took the world by storm.
Yes.
I want to dig into that because, like, I've watched some of your updates, and once I found out who you were, and I did a little look into it, and just tell me first of all, when did it start? Like, what was it like? Tell me the beginning. Like, tell me this little last month or so it's been. Like, tell me the story.
Yeah, so even going back just a little bit more than that, I had wrote the poem back in October,
Yeah.
and it was in the second rounds of editing my book, and I messaged my editor and said, "Can I please put this in the book? I know we're in like the second rounds, but I think this really makes the whole book." And I had even shared it on social media then, which is how I knew like, okay, this needs to go in the book because the response was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
However, it was not what it was then come January, because in January I posted literally the same thing again, the video clip. And I don't know what happened this time. That didn't happen a couple months before, but it just took off. And I was first seeing it. Well, some readers of mine had made me aware of it actually, because they were like, "Hey, I've seen your poem," but it's like not your poem, but the person kind of is using it. And so that brought it to my attention. And by the time it that I noticed, there was at least hundreds of them. And then it just a few days later, thousands. The next week, it was like, and it started on TikTok first. And then maybe a week later, all of a sudden, Instagram was just like flooded with it. It was
I
wild.
love that. That is wild. Tell me, what was like, yeah, like, what was previous to that happening? What is it sort of like the biggest sort of attention or virality that had come prior to that? Because you've been solid at this for a long time. So like, what was that sort of looking like? What was your like, say Instagram for instance? What was the follow count there, and how did things changed?
Yeah. So currently, my follower count on Instagram, I think I gained like 50 or 40,000 people. I
Amazing.
had another moment of this that was kind of similar, but not the same back in 2020 when Jennifer Garner had shared one of my poems to her Instagram. And so that brought, it's funny because there's like a big group of people that came from that time, probably like 30 to 40,000 then,
Yeah.
which was like so sweet of her. She's so nice.
Yeah.
And just randomly, I had never spoken to her before, but she was like, "Here." And I
Amazing.
think at the time I had only had maybe like I don't even know, 30,000 followers on Instagram, not a whole
Yeah.
ton. So that was like one experience. And then I did actually have my second book that I ever wrote. It went pretty viral on the Amazon charts. So that
Amazing.
became pretty popular. So I've had like different phases
Different
throughout
little
my
moments.
career. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But nothing quite like this.
No, this is like not many people have had things like this. Like actually, how crazy it went, and it's one of those weird things that when stuff like this catches, you can't really even explain it. Like it just
Mm-hmm.
goes. Okay, so but can you give me a little insight? I mean, I've watched some of your clips, but just for people listening who might not have watched all your content, like I did a deep dive on. How long have you been at this social media journey and the book journey? Because you obviously 12, 13 books you said that you're reading, you wrote
Yeah.
already. Like, how long of a period of time has this been?
Yeah. I started when I was 22. I'm now 31. I was a full-time college student. And yeah, I self-published three books in the course of a year.
Mm,
So that really kind of put my feet in the door for the self-publishing world. But yeah, I've been doing this for a really long time. I was posting poetry on Instagram before people were doing like stuff like that on Instagram. Like it was still back when people were just posting like their food and random little updates. And it was before there was even Instagram stories. And I just would spam like my account with poetry every single day. So yeah, it's been quite the journey.
That is so good. And I love that because it's that whole, the old saying of overnight success only takes 10 years to happen.
Mm-hmm.
It's like
I
literally
had
that moment.
I had one interview and the lady, I don't think she knew too much about me, which is totally fine, but she said, "Can we expect you to share more poetry after this?" And I just had to kind of laugh because I was like, "Yeah, I mean, I have been for a really long time."
Yeah,
So I'll just keep doing
absolutely.
that.
Yeah, I'll just keep doing the same thing I've done for 9 years.
Yeah.
That's so funny. And you did do a post the other day talking about that, right? Like it just, you got to stick to it. You just got to put in the work and keep coming back. Tell me a bit about that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, where did that work ethic come for you, and why have you beat like self-publishing that many books is a feat in its own. That's a whole podcast in itself. Like,
Mm-hmm.
where did that work ethic come from to just like stick at an art form like this for so long?
Yeah, I think part of it is I fell into it at a very pivotal point in my life. So I was just graduating college and didn't really know what I wanted to do anyway. And so I kind of lucked out at the fact that it was like, okay, I live with my parents. I don't really have a lot of responsibility right now. Could I take this risk and jump and really put it all into being an author and being a writer? And I really made the hard transition, like fully like deleted everything that was on my social medias, became just
Mm,
an author even before like I was even selling really anything. And my husband also helped, he's an entrepreneur. So he helped me a lot with the business side,
cool.
which like at the
Yeah.
beginning I knew nothing about. And now have had to learn like, okay, if you're going to be an author, you also have to know the business side, whether you're self-publishing or traditional publishing, you have to know that side of it in order to be successful because it's really easy to get extremely lost in that process.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially authors, right? Authors are um, what I found. So I'm currently in the process of writing a book as well for my first ever book that I'm writing. I'm like a year into it or whatever. It's taken way longer than I thought it would take, but it's fine because it's my coaches have been helping me refine my ideas. But what I've learned through the industry, and like my literary agent is based in Boston, and we're looking at a US publisher rather than a New Zealand publisher where I'm based at the moment, just because of the reach and whatnot. What I've learned is that like actually like book sales aren't you hear about like the Stephen Kings and the J.K. Rowlings and then in poetry it's even less like there's so it's like people think oh yeah authors and they go off and they sell all these copies but actually like the number, like a good selling book, actually the number's not that big. Like to get into the New York
Mm-mm.
Times bestseller, you actually are not selling. I mean, some people hit that list by selling 10,000 in their first week, and so actually like the numbers aren't big.
Yes, I learned that too pretty early on. I was like,
Yeah,
wow, these people aren't selling because you don't know what you don't know, and a lot of authors won't talk about it. So you're just like, well, how much did you sell to get on the New York Times? Like
yeah,
millions, thousand?
yeah,
I don't know.
yeah. In total, like, are you able to share some of that? Like in total, how many books, or like roughly, like yeah,
Yeah, so I don't have the exact numbers
yeah,
off the top, but
yeah,
my like top selling book, which is Healing for No One But Me, it came out about 2 years ago. That one has sold, I know for a fact, around 50 to 60,000 paperback. That's not
yeah.
including like the ebooks or
Digital
anything.
and
So
ebooks,
that's
yeah.
like my top selling one.
That's amazing. Well done.
Altogether, I'm not quite sure, probably close to
Yeah,
like 200,000, I would assume.
that's amazing.
But yeah,
That's actually
it's
phenomenal for poetry books. Actually, in the industry wise, that's phenomenal.
yeah, when I first met with my agent, he was pretty shocked by that number when I told him. He was like, I looked it
I can
up and I
imagine.
think you sold that much. And then I was like, yeah. And he was like, okay, wow, you're good. Cause I was asking
Yeah,
him, like, are you sure a traditional publisher will want me? And he was like, no, you're fine.
yeah, yeah, 100%. Like they're traditional publishers actually are like stoked if you can get over anything over 10,000. They're like, okay, that's worth the
Yes.
investment. That's worth the investment.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
especially in the
And back to
US.
what,
US is different. Yeah,
yes. And what you were saying about most books not selling many copies, there's a statistic out there that 90, I think it's like 95% of self-published books never sell more than 100 copies. And that's like something I kept in my brain the whole time. Like I was like, no, we're going to do more than that. Like we're not going to be that
yeah.
statistic.
Yeah. And I think what I like about your story, actually, which I will get into a little bit of what's happened since the virality recently, but I really enjoyed that watching that video, you talking about the 9 years into it and all the work that you put in and sticking at it because it's actually like something like Stephen King talks a lot about. Like one of the reasons he's been so successful as an author is he gets up, he starts work at 9 o'clock every morning, he finishes at 5 and he's like just really diligent, but he's just done that forever. And
Mm-hmm.
by doing so much work consistently and being consistent at ease, being one of the most prolific authors in terms of sales and numbers of books released. So it's a real hard job. Okay, what I want to know though is obviously this has gone viral. People have found out it's you, which I think is great because you weren't getting credited very well for it at the beginning. I know that most of my staff who made it didn't even know there was an original person until we found out. And then we shared it around the team and we're like, guys, like this is the person we should go back and credit.
Yeah.
Once you did get credited and all this sort of, I guess, attention came your way, like what's changed since? Like, did it convert into sales of books? Like, or what's happened?
Yeah, so the poem that was featured, like I said, is in my new book that's coming out in August. And we actually weren't supposed to tell people they could pre-order it until April. That was what my publisher advised, just because it comes out in August. And the first week it started really going viral, I was like, hey, I think I'm just going to tell them they can get the book now, because they could. Like, if anyone looked it up, there were people that had already pre-ordered it.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to fully say, like, here, it's available.
Yeah.
You can pre-order it now. And yeah, it shot up to #1 in a bunch of new releases for inspirational poetry, women poetry, whatever it may be. And a lot of it too was because, like, or what I was going to say is, a lot of it with pre-orders, you don't usually get that much of like a hype always, especially mine being like 6 months out. I was kind of like, like some people will probably be like, I'll come back, which I'm sure there still is that. But I was very pleasantly surprised by me saying, like, hey, this is in this book, and how many people are like, oh, I'll support it, I'll pre-order it, especially people that had posted one, didn't know I'd written it, and then I feel like they kind of felt bad, like, oh, I feel bad, like I didn't credit you. So then, like, Jazz, I think you said you had her on here.
Yeah,
Jazz Thornton.
Yeah.
Yeah. She was someone that I think I hadn't even seen hers, but originally I don't think she had credited me, because she had commented on my thing and was like, I'm so sorry, I'm going to make sure I go and tag you and buy a copy of your book. So I was like, okay, well, I mean, like, that's so sweet. Thank you. But I think that also converted to sales as well. So that's pretty much, like, for my book, it has helped it a ton. I won't know the numbers for a while because my publisher has it, but I know just kind of where I was seeing with it ranked. Yeah.
Yeah. To be hit #1 charts means that there's probably a few thousand at least to hit those sorts of numbers.
Yeah, I would think so. I would hope so.
You would think so.
Yeah.
You'd
exactly.
hope so.
You never know, just because the charts are always so different with everybody's books. It's like not always the same, but yeah.
That is awesome. Tell me about, like, you obviously had a bit of. I'm the least popular show you've probably been on since this has happened. Like, you NBC and other things. Like, tell me, like, what's that been like? And where have you gone? Like, who else has asked you to talk about things, and what sort of attention have you gotten elsewhere?
Yeah, NBC News was the first to reach out, that they wanted to write an article. So they had just called me, someone from their team, and asked me a little bit about it. And that's when I found out from that article. I didn't even know until I read it that it said 16 million people had participated. I was like, what?
Really? Is that how big it is? I
yeah,
didn't see that.
That's what they reported on. So I was
16.
like,
I knew it hit millions, but I didn't really.
Yeah, I had no idea either. So I talked to them. I was on a podcast for CNN. Their 5 Good Things. Just a quick little thing, and then Upworthy, and then there's just been people who've reported on it and didn't even like reach out to me, which is fine. I mean, you don't have to reach out to me.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just been really cool, and it's been nice because, like I said earlier, I have been doing this for so long and just been working towards this point. And it's one of those things that I didn't ever dream up this scenario. Like, when they're just like, oh, I just hope people share my poems and share my work, and having it become something that people really just took and like were able to create and make their own in their own unique way was really cool to see.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. I think I think the way it went viral, that people made their own versions, was one of the coolest things I'd ever seen. And especially when I found out it was, you hit the original poem, that it wasn't just some trending thing, that actually they took a piece of work and they brought it to life in their own way. I think that's like one of the coolest ways to make art, when people can take a concept and make it again.
Yes, I 100% agree. And I loved how some people took it their own route. Like, there was some really funny ones. There was and there's like very deep and authentic versions and very vulnerable. So it was kind of just funny to see which The funny ones definitely made me laugh. I think some people were coming
Yeah.
to my defense. Like, they're like, you're taking her poetry and making a joke out of it. I was like, guys, I do have a good sense of humor. Like, I do laugh at these. Like, I'm not just like, yeah. So it was just funny.
Yeah, no, it was good. There was definitely some good funny ones. Some of the guys in our team had some really funny ones as well. And
Yeah.
I do agree with you. I liked how people took it their own way. And I think that
Hmm.
I really love your attitude towards it, because some people are really protective of their art and some people are really like snobbery about it,
Hmm.
different things. But I love that, like, your opinion on it and your take on it, because actually, like, it's when you your work, let your fans create their own versions of it. It's like fan fiction when it comes to like
Hmm.
Harry Potter or like Star Wars or any of these big franchises that have these like fandoms that just like write their own fan fictions of it. It just takes things to a whole new level of love and appreciation by your audience. And because some people get like really protective of it. And it's like, no, you're killing your audience. You're telling your audience, don't appreciate my work the way you want to.
Yes. Yes. I agree. And I think some people, like, they didn't know what to quite do when it was like people weren't crediting you and this and that, or they were saying, oh, it's just a trend, so you don't need credit. And I was just trying to say, like, I never obviously didn't know it was ever going to be a trend. All I was trying to say was, hey, it did come from an original poem. It would be cool if you
Yeah.
read it and like saw
Yeah.
that it comes from an original poem. However, it's also the internet, so I'm very aware of
Yeah.
that's not going to happen. So I'm just trying to make the best of the situation. And also,
Yeah.
like you said, the fact that it's been so impactful for people, that means a lot for me. And I know there's people still like, I've made a couple of videos like 2 weeks ago, and still now people are like, oh, I found you. Like, I found the original person. I'm like, see, like, that's all that really matters.
Yeah. I was going to ask one of the questions I had to ask you, but you've kind of already answered to me is like, how do you follow up from this, right? Like, because that's also a thing for artists and people who create art to, it's quite a burden. I need to follow up the big record or the big thing. But actually, I think I know the answer is that you just did it for 9 years. You've had other big moments before. You'll just keep doing it again, I suppose. But like, tell me your thoughts. How do you follow this up?
Yeah, it's funny because I I knew my poetry was good. So
Yeah.
I was like, I know it's like worth reaching people, but even now, since I've gotten all this new audience, whether it's on TikTok or Instagram, I've kind of just started repurposing old content that I thought was really good, but then like didn't reach the audience it could have. And it's funny because now even that stuff is like taking off more than it did
Amazing. Yeah.
originally. I don't think it's necessarily I have to do anything different. I think I was already doing what people like, and now they're like, oh, there's more of this. And
Yeah.
even to the fact where people found out with like pre-ordering my book, they're like, oh, I have to wait till August. Like, I need to go get your other books before, like, because
Cool.
I can't wait till
Yeah.
August to
Yeah.
read it. So
All your
that's
back
been
catalog.
really, yeah, I'm like, there's a
Yeah.
whole list of them.
I love
Get the more
that.
recent ones though, because the first ones are a little like, you know, I was 22 when I wrote them, but
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. That's the way. No, look, I think it's amazing. Like, and I'm stoked that I got to talk to you about it, because seeing this sort of thing, like seeing social media change people's lives, but also the way that you've done is even better. Like the fact that you've just been at it for so long, because that's like a lot of the thing I sort of talk to people about. Like our agency, people look at our agency and like collectively across our agency, there's like something like 3 million followers or something, and people are like, "Oh my god, like you guys are, oh, how do we do that?" And it's like, "Oh, it just took us 6 years to do this, and
Mm,
a team. There's 35 of us. Like, like it's not.
yes,
Don't go for the flash in the pan. Like try, like build real proper systems, do the work, be consistent, and this sort of stuff pays off. It's not luck. You built the opportunity.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I'm really
And I
stoked there to hear that.
Yeah, thank you. I say that all the time to authors that I talk to. I'm like, if you want to really do this, you have to be in it for the long haul, and you have to be willing to like build those pillars to find the success. Because if you just go into it hoping like your first poem goes viral or it's shared or your first book sells millions of copies, I just think you're going to end up being disappointed when you could have gone into it with like a little bit of a different mindset.
Absolutely, absolutely. One last thing I'm going to ask: have you taken some of your old videos and stuff and trialed out the new trials feature on Instagram? Are you using that as part of your strategy? Have you have you tried
No,
the
I haven't
trials?
even used that.
I
No.
reckon you should. So we've been doing this, right? So it's been a
Okay.
month, I think, since trials has come out. It's such
Okay.
an interesting tool that Instagram's launched. So we've taken all our old videos that went viral in the past, but they're like 2, 3 years old or whatever they might be, run them
Mm,
on trials. What trials does is it pushes it not to your followers, just to other people.
mm,
It tries to find new audiences. based on who your current audience is. It goes out and tries to find more of these people. What's good about it is that your current audience will never know that you've done it until you release them, and you don't ever have to release them from trials. They can just sit in trials. And so what I would say is, like, your Instagram kind of knows now who likes your stuff. Take all these old videos, don't just repost them. You can do that too, but you can also post them as trials and just see where it goes and see who it finds. We've been doing it recently, and it's like we've had, I think in the last 3 weeks, we've done, I don't know, maybe 20 videos of our old videos. We would have had 20 million views across them.
Wow.
Because they were
I had
all really
never
good
thought
videos.
of that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We
right.
knew they were good, but now we've got a bigger audience, and and the platform knows who we're trying to target now.
Oh, that's so interesting. Yeah, I'll have to try that.
Try it.
I've seen it there, but I've never like participated in it.
It's amazing, like actually
Okay,
amazing. Like,
good.
it's such a smart thing that Instagram did, because it allows you to like post lots to your page without your followers getting annoyed that you're posting so much to your page.
Sure, that makes
Right,
sense.
and then you only release the ones that do well again, and then
Right.
but otherwise they can sit in trials. People still know it's you. They can still follow you. Like, we've gained followers from it and viewership. So anyway, if there's some hot
Interesting.
tip I can give you,
Yeah, thanks for the tip. I'll definitely try
yeah,
that.
go back and try it. Make the most of
Yeah.
the wait, right? Because these waves,
Yeah.
as you know, you might not get
Yeah.
another one for 2 years. Who
Yes,
knows?
for sure.
You know.
Yes.
So anyway, hey, I need to wrap up, but I am so happy that I got to speak to you. I think it's amazing what you've done. I really love
Thank you.
the series that you've done, but I, more than anything, actually, I really love just how solid your effort's been over time. I think it's so commendable, because not many people do that, especially authors.
Yeah.
So well done.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you having me on.
No, thank you so much.